Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny, founder of Gentle Landmark and the host of Gathering Voices. This is your go-to podcast for real, raw stories from women who are out here building businesses, creating change, and making waves in their communities. Join us as we sit down with Monique, founder of Butter and Lye, as she opens up about her journey to create safe, nourishing skincare solutions. From tackling the hidden dangers of mainstream products to empowering others through conscious beauty. This episode is a powerful exploration of health, identity, and transformation. Plus, a special thanks to Monique for offering our listeners 15% off their purchase with the code GATHERING15. Get ready for an eye-opening conversation that will inspire you to rethink the products you use and the impact they have on your body and the world around you. Hi, Monique. How are you?
I am doing excellent today. How are you?
I'm great as well. You are one of our favorite brands here in Gentle Landmark. I'm super excited to have this conversation and learn more about your experience with personal care items and your struggles or experiences, especially being a Black woman, and then how that has brought you into your brand, your company, and how that's going. I know you just recently relaunched. So I'm excited to hear all about it.
Absolutely. So hello to everyone listening. I'm Monique Kofsky. I'm the founder of Butter and Lye. Butter and Lye is a non-toxic bath care company that really believes in giving back. So just this year, we launched what's called the Bar for Bar program, where for every bar that we sell, we give a bar back to the community.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, actually.
It's something that I haven't really been saying too much of, but we just hit a milestone of 5,000 bars. And so I've been talking about it a lot more because it was like a goal that I set for myself. And we finally hit it. So
amazing. Look at you go.
Thank you.
All right. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this and why you ended up starting your business in skincare.
I feel like I've always been a bit of a skincare girly, but not in the typical sense where I'm using serums and really great things for my skin. More so in the exploratory way. I love trying new things, and I tried new things. Like pretty much from high school on, I was trying new things. And I think that got me to a point where I was trying the wrong things and my skin was suffering because of it. And so I started having skin issues in my 20s where I had, it was moderate acne, but for me, who was used to pretty clear skin, it was like really bad acne. And my pimples were really deep and cystic, and I would go to bed at night and my face was hurting. And I'm like, why is my face hurting? Well, to do something about this. So my background is in biochemistry, and I spent a lot of time in a lab. The lab that I worked in for over a decade was an immunotherapy lab where we were producing a cancer drug. And so I spent a lot of time talking to my colleagues and, just learning about what the skin needs, what the skin doesn't need. And eventually I just decided to turn my kitchen into a lab and figure out my acne issue myself. Because I was going to dermatologists, they would prescribe things. It would clear me up a little bit, but as soon as I missed a single day, my acne was like coming back, and it was coming back even worse. And it's something that you don't expect to happen after you like leave puberty and leave your teenage years. And so when you're experiencing it in your 20s and 30s, it's pretty tough. I knew that I didn't want to stay on the medications that I was being prescribed, and all the side effects were starting to get to me, the flaky skin, the sensitivity to sun. And a funny story, I was on these medications and I was dating a guy at the time.
Okay.
And we were together for a while, and he was like, hey, you should spend the night at my place. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he's the kind of guy that likes nice things. So he has the 500 thread count Egyptian cotton sheets and just like a fancy kind of, not like too fancy, but he's like, I like my nice things kind of dude. And I remember doing my skincare routine that night. And at that time I was on benzoyl peroxide. And so I had to smear a layer of it on my face and wait for it to dry and then add moisturizer.
I'm sure he did not like that with his sheets.
He didn't know. I didn't tell him. I should have told him. I did not tell him. Like doing a skincare routine. Mind you, I have white sheets at home, so I didn't know what benzoyl peroxide did to sheets. But if anyone listening has ever used benzoyl peroxide on their face and dark sheets, you know what it does to sheets, and it completely bleaches them. So I woke up the next morning and I had my face print all on his pillowcases. Oh my God. All on the sheet. It was completely bleached. I ruined them with my face. And that was like a final straw. This like a wonderful sheet. And so that was, and just to get to the ending, that guy is now my husband. So
oh, I love that so much. It didn't kill the vibes or anything.
I killed the vibes. It did. We made it through that debacle, but it was mortifying at the time. But I am glad that we got through it. But it kind of just made me start thinking about my skincare a lot more and what I was putting on my face and how I wanted to treat my skin. And so I started thinking about more natural ways. And growing up, my parents are Haitian immigrants. And so a lot of things that we did growing up were super natural. And if I got sick, we would use this like Haitian castor oil and they would like spread it all over my chest. And I would feel better. And so I just kind of tapped into that. I tapped into my biochemistry background and I decided to turn my kitchen into a lab.
I love that.
And I was very meticulous about it. I have to look for it. I may have lost a bunch of things after I moved, but I had a lab notebook. I was doing experiments. I was making sure to write every little detail that I can down, every variable. And I started crafting soaps. And then when I got to one that my skin liked, then that became my formula. And I started sharing it with my husband. And my husband, I remember when he took his first shower and he came out, he was like, my skin is really soft. And I was like, yeah, I made that. That was me.
Yeah, you did.
I was super excited about it. And so then, of course, I'm sharing it with my colleagues and my family and friends, and they all loved it. They were like, this is so different from the body wash that I use or, the store-bought soap that I use. And so it was just like...
well, it's a huge difference. When you lather, it is the silkiest, the most bouncy, luxurious feel. And I just always think back to when I was using soap that my parents bought, because they use like Dove, just like I'm sure a lot of our parents did. And it's just so hard, plasticky, waxy, like very, very different from what you do.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. It was a little bit of a shock for a lot of the people that I shared it with because they're so used to one thing.
Yeah.
And natural soaps tend to be slightly a lot more expensive than some of the commercially produced ones, but for good reason. It's really great ingredients in them. And so when you go from something that is commercially produced and the ingredients are a little bit, well, maybe I hope we have time to get into some of these ingredients because I have a lot to say about the ingredients in some of these.
We will make time.
Body washes and soaps. But when you have something that's made with like pure ingredients, then your skin reacts differently. It's something that your skin needs. And so I started using the soap. I was giving it to my family and my friends, and the acne problem that I had for years cleared up in 2 months and never came back.
Oh, I use the Rose Hip moisturizing bar because all my life I've had those rosy cheeks in the wintertime especially. And I think it was 3 to 4 months after using meticulously day after day your soap, and it works. Like, your stuff is really good. Like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you for that story. I love hearing feedback.
You're welcome.
Like that. And I'm giving it to my family and my friends. I'm getting stories like yours, and I'm like, I might have something here. And I decided to turn it to a brand, and that's where Butter and Lye came from. That's how it was born. And I came up with the name Butter and Lye because the soap recipe was like so simple, and I really prioritized high quality ingredients. And when soap was first made, like 2,000 plus years ago, I think it was in Babylon, they used butters, like animal fats, vegetable butters, oils. and they mix it with wood ash. They would just take a pot of burned wood ash and they would pour the fats and oils and butters through it, and they would collect that. And that was the soap that they used. And one of
Wow.
the ingredients in wood ash is potassium hydroxide, which is a type of lye. And so the name
Okay.
Butter and Lye is just an homage to ancient soap making techniques when that's really all they added to their soaps.
I love that. There's so much intention there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to go into how your brand started off and where it is now with the
Yes.
relaunch?
I would love that. Butter and Lye started off as an eco-friendly company. I majored in biology, but I had a concentration in sustainability. And so ever since college, I was very interested in different sustainable like programs that were being developed and how we can be better to our planet. When I first launched Butter and Lye, I wanted to make sure that it was 100% plastic free. Butter and Lye launched as not just a body soap company. I also had dish soaps and a whole kitchen line where I had bamboo brushes and these little wooden soap dishes and a bunch of things. And a lot of my marketing was around being sustainable. So showing people how I compost my box after I use it,
Yeah.
talking about the effects of plastic on the environment.
I think that's when I found you.
Yes, it
You were
was.
definitely
Yeah.
still in that era. But I'm loving the
Yes.
new era, so I can't wait for us to get to that part.
Yeah. And I loved it. And it was very me. A lot of the things that I promoted were things that I was trying to change in my life too, because I started just cleaning up the yuck in my household routines. I started using cleaner cleansers for my surfaces. I really just did a overhaul of all of the bath care products that I was using. And I
Yeah.
really just started reading ingredients labels. I feel like a lot of people read the labels in the food that they eat, but they don't read the labels on their cleaning products and personal care products. And they're just as important because your personal care product is going over your largest organ.
Yeah.
And I often hear the argument, well, skin is a great barrier. Your skin doesn't let a lot of things in. And yes, that's very true. But if you have problem skin and you have a bunch of breaks in your skin, then that's access to your blood supply. If it's going near your mucosal membranes, like your lips, your eyes, your nose, then that's access to your blood supply. And so, yes, the skin is a great barrier, but there are ways for these toxins to get into your body through your skin.
Right.
And the way you clean your house, you're leaning on it, you're putting, you drop food on it, you eat the
Yeah,
food
we
off of
touch
it.
our skin touches everything. So imagine if you're not being aware of the toxins that your body is touching, like your clothes and down to your skincare, like you said, but also the fabrics of your couch or your sheets or anything. Like it all makes a difference and it's gonna break down that skin barrier too, or have
Absolutely.
reactions.
hmm I believe that it's important if you start a business for it to match your ethics. And I wanted Butter and Lye to match the eco-friendly lifestyle that I was creating for myself. And so I focused on that. So fast forward, I launched Butter and Lye in 2020. I launched it in March of 2020. The
Okay.
I had a launch event scheduled for that month, the end of
Yeah.
the month. And then the person who was running the venue called me up maybe like the first or second week into March, and they were like, I don't think we're gonna have this event. I think we're gonna postpone it by a couple of weeks
Yeah.
just because it seems like there's some things going around in the world. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So happily like moving forward with my launch,
Yeah.
like preparing for the event. And then 2 weeks passed, and then they were like, I don't think that this is going to
No.
happen. And then they canceled it. And who knew that the world would be shut down for years after that?
Yeah. I was
Years.
supposed to get married April of that year. And so, boy, do I know it. All you
Oh,
brides out there who got stuck in that, I feel you.
did you end up having the wedding?
I got sick and tired of seeing my friends on social somehow still getting married. Don't know what that was about and how that was happening. So I was just like, you know what? We're doing this. And I had a coworker who's actually ordained. So she met us. We were living in New York at that time. We went down to the Hudson River and my parents came up and my friend and her husband were there and we did it. And then we had a nice little dinner
I
and
love
that was that.
that. We also
Yeah.
we got lucky. We got married in 2019, in August of
Okay.
2019. So we just missed it.
Just
But we
missed
also
it.
had a
Yeah.
really simple wedding. We live in Brooklyn, so there are these little lots that they turn into gardens. And so we just got
Yes.
married in one of those little garden lots. It's like maybe
That's
12,
adorable.
15 feet wide lot. And we had the an ordained minister come there, just like our parents and like a couple of close friends watched us
Yeah.
get married. And then we had like a big feast with like 100 people at a restaurant in
I love
Williamsburg,
that so
Brooklyn.
much.
It was a perfect day.
It sounds
But
like it.
yeah.
All right. So tell us about your relaunch and what
Okay.
Butter and Lye is now as you see it.
I love the idea of being eco-friendly. What I didn't like is a lot of times sustainability and being eco-friendly focuses on the earth and the environment, and they don't focus on one of the most important creatures in it, which are the humans and the human impact. And so when I relaunched, I wanted to make sure that I put the impact on humans first. And so instead of being an eco-friendly company, now I'm a non-toxic company. I talk
Okay.
about the effects of toxins on your body. I talk about being all natural and how that's a little bit better for your skin than something that is man-made or full of a bunch of toxic chemicals that may not be great for your skin. And on top of that, as I mentioned in the beginning of today's talk, I launched the Bar for Bar program, where I am giving this amazing soap to people who need it most, people who are exposed to the most amount of toxins out there. I partnered with a couple of different charities in New York that distribute my bars to people who are either without a home, who are lower income, just people who are in need of a little pick me up, like a nice bar of soap. And I love that
Yeah.
I was able to relaunch and introduce something that focused on the human experience because it really matches my life where I am right now. I started in 2020. I had my first and only son in 2022. And I'm
Congratulations.
thank you. And I'm
Yes.
starting to think about his world and what he's going to be growing up into. And so relaunching the company into a format that focuses on the experience of the people just made sense for me. And
Yeah.
that's where I am right now. Yeah. I'm loving it. Loving it. I'm loving it.
Good. Before we were talking a little bit of your experience with personal care products and acne and trying to find the right ones, and you were talking about side effects. Do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've tried a lot of things. At one point, my skincare routine was a different cleanser for like every part of my body. I had like my shampoo, I had my conditioner, I had like very thick natural hair. And so I had all of the creams and butters and gels and oils and like everything. And I would have like a 10-step routine just for my hair. I had my facial cleanser, facial moisturizers, my body cleanser, feminine wash, so many different washes, so many different
Yeah.
cleansers. And in addition to the acne, I was noticing different issues. One big issue that I had was probably around 2018. I just went for a normal pap smear and they checked the size of your uterus and they were like, oh, it's a little big. And I knew I wasn't pregnant because, it wasn't in
Wasn't
the
the time.
it wasn't the time. And I was really surprised by that. And I went for an ultrasound and they found a fibroid. And fibroids are fairly common. They say that, up to 4 out of 5 women could have it in their lifetime. What was a little bit worrying for me was the fibroid kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually a second one formed. And I'm like, okay, there's something happening here, and started to do an audit of my personal care routine. And this was like around the same time that I was like dealing with my acne. I was trying to do a more holistic cleanse of everything. After switching to a natural bar soap, my fibroids stopped growing. That was it. They have remained the same size. They didn't shrink. I wish they did, but they didn't shrink,
Yeah.
but they've remained the same size since then.
That's still
So
good though.
Yeah.
That's like crazy. Just like stop.
It just stopped. That was it. There were a few things that I changed in my life at the time, so I can't quite say that that is the reason why they stopped growing, but I am just making that loose correlation that that was something that happened. And so I started reading up on studies about different things that are found in personal care items and how they could impact the body. And one thing that I read over and over was the presence of phthalates. So phthalates, you find them in a lot of fragrance oils. They help the fragrance last longer. But because they're in fragrance oils, when you're reading the packaging, it could just say fragrance oils. They don't have to disclose that there are phthalates within the fragrance oils. And yeah, there are phthalate-free fragrance oils, so those exist, but you're not quite sure what you're getting when you're buying a product with fragrance oil. But phthalates have a lot of impacts on the body's endocrine system. They're endocrine disruptors, so they could imbalance your hormones. I read a study that said it impacts Black women a little bit more than other races. And one thing that it does say on Black girls, which I kind of resonated with, and I was really surprised to read, is it causes them to have their first period earlier than normal. And I remember being one of the first little girls in my class that had her first menstrual cycle. And so I started cleaning the phthalates out. And the best way to do that for me was to remove fragrance oils. And so now if I see something with fragrance, I will either use it sparingly or not at all. And I would much rather prefer an essential oil.
Yeah. I know I'm the same. I always check like I want phthalate free, paraben free, and I really look at the label. And when I see so many ingredients stacking up, I'm just like, whoa, why do you need all those? And then when I can't even understand them, I know, okay, put it back on the shelf.
Yeah. And one thing that I am grateful for our current time is there are apps out there. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Yuka app.
No, I have not heard that one.
So Yuka is an app that I sometimes use where you could just scan the barcode of something.
Okay.
And you'll see a score come up, and that score will tell you the cleanness, essentially, of the product.
I used another app. I don't remember what it's called. I haven't used it in a while, but yeah, same thing. Yeah. And it would like the cleanliness and natural ingredients, which was super helpful.
It really is, because a lot of times you'll see something and you're like, I don't know if this is good or bad. Can't even pronounce this word, but it may be perfectly safe for the body. Yeah. But other times there may be, studies that show that, this is something you should avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was actually reading, I'll link the articles that you sent me before we had this conversation. But in one of them, I just thought it was so important to note that Black women are put through so many different situations than, say, for me, white women with your hair treatments. It was talking about, and just how we have those societal norms that straight hair is more appropriate. And therefore, women in the Black community, or even any of the BIPOC communities, you guys are getting treatments at such young ages, and then even throughout your lifespan. And it was saying how there are so many phthalates and paraben toxins in those products themselves. So it's just very interesting, the inequality of products out there and just how society kind of molds things.
Yeah, just to add on that, I do normally wear my hair naturally, but it's silk press fall and winter, so I'm straightening it, but not to fit any societal norms, just to exercise the versatility of my hair. But
yeah, and you're free to do whatever you want.
I feel that.
I was just reading that article, and that part like really stuck with me because I've never had to do that necessarily.
It is. And going through it, I even find it quite fascinating, because I was 8 years old when I got my first relaxer, and I will never forget how that impacted me. So my mom, I asked for it because my mom wore her hair straight, and my hair, like I mentioned earlier, is super thick and hard to comb. It's like thinned out with a little age, which is, kind of nice and also kind of bad at the same time. I miss it.
I know. I used to have extremely thick hair as a child too, and now it's thinning out. I'm just like,
Yeah. And I was excited to go for my first relaxer. And so I sat in the chair, and this lady pulls up this tub of white paste, and then she starts applying it to my hair. And you're not supposed to put it on your scalp. And so, like, she's parting my hair and trying to avoid my scalp. And then this was like my very first relaxer. And so at the end, she starts massaging it into my scalp. And at first, like I'm 8 years old, so I don't really know what's going on. But at first,
I need to speak up as an 8-year-old too.
yeah. Well, I didn't even know. I thought what she was doing was normal. And my mom, she was getting her hair done too, because that's like what we did growing up. We would go to the salon and we would all get our hair done together. My mom, myself, and my little sister, Jen.
That's sweet.
And so like the lady's massaging it to my scalp, and as she's doing it, I'm feeling like a little tingle. And I'm like, is this normal? Maybe. And then she like kind of sits me to the side and she waits for it to do its magic. And maybe like 5 minutes later, like the tingle increases into a burn in certain sections of my hair. And so if you scratch your head and you get a relaxer, like the relaxer burns at that entry point. And so now my hair is burning, and she's kind of trying to find where the burn is. And she's adding a little something to that area just to calm the burning scalp, but she's not washing it off. When she washed the relaxer off, my scalp was raw to the point where a couple of days later, I had scabs all over my head.
An 8-year-old.
As an 8-year-old. And I wish I could say that that was the only time that it happened. It is not. And you could ask anyone who has had relaxers regularly. You get scabs on your head from the relaxer. It's such a potent hair
That's such
treatment.
a shame.
Yeah. And for it to happen to little girls, even the relaxers that are targeted to little girls, there are little boxes of just for me that have little girls on it. Even those relaxers could burn and create scabs. They're chemical burns on your scalp.
Yeah.
And I have some areas of my head where I've had scabs where the hair just does not grow back the same. It like damages your hair follicles. So I hated the fact that I begged my mom for that relaxer. And but I also am very happy that I stopped doing it after I got to college. And funny, I didn't stop doing it because I wanted to stop it, because it just like became my routine. I stopped doing it because I went to a school that didn't have any black hair salons. And so I needed to
That's a whole nother
figure
story.
something out. Yeah. So I went natural by accident, rocking this tiny little fro during an era where everyone still permed their hair. It was quite everyone thought I was a revolutionary. They were like, oh, wow, like, look at you with your little fro.
I love that.
I'm glad I stopped. And so, yeah, like you said, there are a lot of products, personal care products out there that are targeted toward Black women specifically that do not have our health in mind.
Yeah.
And they're solely so that we could fit European physical standards.
Yeah. On that note, did I see that you now have shampoo bars?
I do have shampoo bars. I've had for a long time. It's funny that you asked me that, Jennifer, because I was mulling over in my mind whether or not I should get rid of them and just focus on body. But yes, I do have
I don't
shampoo
know. I think
bars.
that's part of your story. Maybe you should keep them.
I do love them. The shampoo bars that I have, I rebranded them as head to toe bars because they're perfectly fine to use on the rest of your body too.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the shampoo bars that are out there are cleansers, but the shampoo bar that I make is a soap. And so it's made with the oils and the lye mixed together. So yeah, if you're interested in trying a shampoo bar, I highly recommend. I'll send you one. Let me know.
Yeah, awesome. Have to hook me up.
Yes, I will.
Awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure, Monique. I think we dived on a lot of interesting topics, so thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a very wonderful conversation.
Same, I agree. All right, you have all the best, Monique.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Gathering Voices. Don't forget, we release a new episode every month filled with more inspiring stories and heartfelt conversations. stay connected, stay inspired, and let's continue to celebrate the voices that shape our world. Until next time, take care and keep sharing your story.